Yasir Qadhi is one of the best known Islamic scholars in the Western world, like in the US. And then Zakir Naik, who many of you know, is the Indian guy. He's also an Islamic scholar, and he's a lecturer, travels all over the world. There's two very, very high profile Islamic scholars and preachers who had a conversation together, right? That was very, very popular among, the Muslim crowd. And they were talking about, they actually discussed the threat of atheism and agnosticism, young Muslims leaving Islam and becoming atheists and agnostics. And we thought, and they started discussing how to get people back into the fold of Islam. These young people are leaving. So some of that conversation was really interesting. And I don't think, Armin, you haven't heard it yet, have you? Have you heard this stuff?
I think I have, because there was a whole bunch of people who clipped this. There was a lot of both Muslim and ex-Muslim channels, and also Christian, anti-Islamic Christian channels that were cutting this part out. I think if it is the part that I think it is, then I might have already seen it. But it was a very significant part. Like, I don't know if people understand how big of a deal these two people are for different reasons. Like, if the people who are not familiar with the Islamic world, like maybe we should compare the audience like that Zakir Naik has compared to Sam Harris. Like, Zakir Naik's audience is like astronomically higher, for example, than someone like Sam Harris. You know what I mean? Like, these are giants that we're talking about, like when it comes to the Islamic community and the influence that they have, right? So Zakir Naik is like the biggest audience
worldwide.
I think, worldwide, the biggest audience any Islamic Muslim preacher has. But Dr. Yasir Qadhi, he is, for different reasons, very significant. He is taken seriously by a lot of people because of not just being an Islamic scholar, which doesn't mean anything. He's an actual scholar, right? And that has been a major source of controversy because, like, when you say Islamic scholar, the scholarship that you get is based on Islamic standards. It's all a bunch of crap, and it's just like how much. It's basically the same thing as becoming a scholar in witchcraft or something like that, right? But Dr. Yasir Qadhi is actually a Western educated, I think Yale, an actual academic who has a lot of, research and papers behind his belt, and is taken seriously by non-Islamic scholars, and that gets him. So he doesn't have the audience like that the Zakir Naik has, but he's taken seriously by both Muslim and non-Muslim scholars when it comes to Islamic studies. So he has a different form of legitimacy, but also a lot of controversy, because a lot of as people that have the Islamic scholarship, like from Islamic institutions, hate him and are intimidated by him because he's taken seriously, because it seems like the Muslims, for example, that take him seriously are taking Western education. They're valuing that more than Islamic education, and also because of the things that he says, seems to be Yasir Qadhi himself seems to be saying things that puts Islamic education, belittles it, and they hate that, right? It seems like Yasir Qadhi being taken seriously by a lot of Muslims is seen as an inferiority complex, as in Muslims do not take their own scholars seriously, and you need the Westerners to clap for your scholarship until Muslims also feel like they are taken seriously and they have any legitimacy, because these Western institutions are telling you that yes, you are a scholar, and that's the only way that Muslims will appreciate their own work. So that's why they hate Yasir Qadhi. Anyway, that was a huge introduction, but go on.
Yeah, no, I gotta say, like with Zakir Naik too, a lot of the ex-Muslims that I talked to, like I remember Vidu Vids, when he was here, the comedian, the amazing, like I love Vidu Vids. So he was, and he does an amazing imitation, right, an impression of Zakir Naik, and he talked about how he used to listen to Zakir Naik's lectures a lot. before, back when he was religious. So and if you listen to Zakir Naik, you actually hear it. I mean, aside from the accent, and he's kind of a comedic sort of character, just his affect is, but the stuff he says and the way that he comes back at arguments is, from that point of view, if you're looking at it from that point of view, it is actually a cut above what Islamic scholars typically do. He does engage in a way that a lot of the others don't. So anyway, let's play this clip.
Well, before, actually, two more things I want to add for people to have some context. That's actually a very important point, because Ali, you are, for a lot of people, if you want to be get an information from a Muslim on why Islam is good and why you should convert to Islam, or why your understanding of Islam is incorrect, from a lot of Muslims, again, I'm not going to say most, because that's going to be harder to prove. I do believe that, but I'm not going to say claim that here right now. But from a lot of Muslims, you are more likely to get a video from Zakir Naik more than a Quranic verse or something from the Hadith. Like a Muslim sending you a Zakir Naik video to be like just telling you. I mean, they're supposed, if they were properly doing Musliming properly, right, they would be like, just listen to this verse of the Quran, or just read this chapter of the Quran. That's how you Muslim properly. But it's more likely for them to send you like, just watch this video of Zakir Naik. Okay, that's one thing. And also, another thing that I want to mention is that both Western educated scholars, Islamic scholars, and traditionally educated Islamic scholars are a bit jealous of these YouTube personalities that are getting such a big audience, for example, like Zakir Naik, and they think that this is harming the Muslim community or the Ummah by listening to people who don't have the actual credentials, Islamic credentials, that are basically talking about things that are not within their expertise, but are taking very seriously and have major audiences. And they like, yes, maybe like if you go listen to an Islamic scholar, he's not going to be as interesting to listen to as Zakir Naik, but that's actually the better information that you could get. One recent example is when Zakir Naik came out and gave out his understanding of whether it's haram or not to masturbate. Both, I don't know if you saw that video. Both Yasir Qadhi and
I stopped masturbating after watching that video. It was very compelling.
No. Both Yasir Qadhi and Zakir Naik think that it's possible for masturbation not to be haram. That it could be makruh, or maybe it's allowed in certain situations, right? Which is a huge departure from traditional Islamic understanding of, no, it's definitely haram. There is no exceptions unless there's a medical necessity for releasing semen or something like that. Other than that, that is absolutely haram. Okay, so, and a lot of traditional Muslims are using this as they already know Yasir Qadhi is like a modernist, as a reformist. So him saying that it's possible to do masturbate and it not being haram, they were like, we already knew he was a lost cause. But for somebody like Zakir Naik to come and say to such a big audience that maybe masturbation is not haram, maybe it's not sinful in certain situations, they're like, this is definite proof that he doesn't know what he's talking about. They came up with the hadith that proves beyond reasonable doubt that is Islamic tradition, that this is completely sinful and it's haram. And a lot of people are like, this is exactly why people shouldn't be listening to da'wah people on YouTube and the internet, and actually go refer to Islamic scholars. Anyways, let's go to...
They want to keep the youth. That's the thing, and I think that's the most important glimpse that you're going to get from this clip that we will play very, very soon. You're going to hear it now, but it's a really interesting glimpse into their thinking, like the way that they're thinking about it. And a lot of it has to do with, you could shut down all of these questions, deviant questions coming from young Muslims a while ago, and just slap them and tell them to be quiet. But now you have to engage, because they're going to go online, they're going to find it from other sources. So they're trying to keep their youth. And I would think if you want to keep your youth, you got to let them jerk off, you know? Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah,
It's an
that's
important
actually
part
very
of
good.
keeping your youth.
That-
Yeah. So
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. That is very. I mean, it sounds funny, but it's very true.
yeah, I know.
Hey guys, if you want to join these streams live, get your comments and questions read by Ali and Armin and the guests, and most importantly, to get full access to the full video versions of all these episodes, become a patron. Link in the description below.